finger that's pulling this trigger.
You messed with the wrong family.
I'm a survivor, I'm not gonna give up. Alright, I'm sorry, I'm gonna stop there. But let's go ahead and talk about Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider finally gets the tempo going for video game movies. Let's go and talk about the best thing about Tomb Raider, and that is Alicia Vikander as Lara Croft. She is spectacular in this film. She is the best thing about this film for a couple of reasons. First off, the film takes a lot of time in establishing Lara as a character. Not so much a badass at first, but they establish her as a character. They establish that she doesn't want to follow in her father's footsteps. She wants to make a name for herself. But when she finally figures out that she needs to find out what happened to her father, she follows in the family name and she finds out. As stated, Alicia Vikander is the best thing about this film. The film does put a lot of emphasis on her, which does make the film falter in a few situations, considering that all the time and effort they put into making her a character, other characters seem to get sidelined, including the villain. Like, I can't name you one character in this film. Like the Asian guy from the trailer. Don't know his name. Not because I don't want to. I could probably figure it out, obviously, by looking on the internet, but I'm not going to because that would make me a liar. I don't know anyone's names in this film. I don't even know the father's name in this film, unfortunately, because some of those characters just don't stand out as much as Lara Croft. The film puts a lot of emphasis on her, but unfortunately with all that emphasis makes the other characters seem lackluster. Now, if you did play the video games, you will understand a lot about this film already. It does deviate a little bit from the video games, but overall it does stick to the source material, and that is good or bad depending on how you look at it. It's good because the people who have played the video games and are familiar with it, they'll understand that, okay, this is exactly what I wanted to see. This is Lara Croft. This is the Tomb Raider that I've been dying to see. But also it's bad because if you played the video games, it doesn't completely follow the storyline of the video games. Like I said, it does deviate a little bit from the video games, but not too much to where you won't recognize the IP. Also, my biggest complaint about the film, it doesn't know what it wants to be at times. One minute, it wants to include supernatural elements, then the next minute, it just doesn't. Like, nope, it's science. Then all of a sudden, it goes right back to supernatural elements. I'm like, make up your mind, movie. What do you want? So there's one point where I'm like, okay, that makes sense. I like that. And then all of a sudden, they completely backtrack. I'm like, what are you doing? Don't do this. You were doing a good job at establishing that it's not supernatural. It's science-based. And then you completely backtrack. And then you backtrack again. So it does this over and over again. And it did annoy me just a little bit. Speaking of how Lara Croft is awesome, the action scenes are also okay. They establish in the flashbacks, like I said, that Lara Croft has been trained with a bow and arrow. And in the present day, when she's killing a bunch of people, she's using a bow and arrow. And it's amazing. You hear the impact of each arrow and each shot fired. Because there's not as many gunfights as in other films, each individual shot is impactful. You hear each individual shot, bam, 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 as well as each individual arrow being fired as it goes into a target, making each individual arrow shot, gun fired, that much more impactful. So as stated, Alicia Vikander is the best thing about this film, making Lara Croft the best thing about this film. The film does put a lot of time and emphasis on her character, building her up as the Tomb Raider that we all know and love. But because of all the emphasis on her character, it does put some of the other characters on the sidelines, including the villain. It also does follow the storyline of the games to a T, I should say. Not so much just copy and paste, but it does deviate a little bit, but also sticking to the source material as best as it possibly can. And as I stated, the film also does go back and forth on whether or not it wants to be supernatural or scientific based. It does it too many times, and it does annoy me a little bit. And the action scenes are quite entertaining, despite there aren't that many of them, but when they do show up, they are very much more impactful. Ladies and gents, thank you for sticking to the end of my review of Tomb Raider. I will, as always, have a written review on my website if you want to check that out at www.ef4reviews.com. A link will be down below in the description. I also want to know, did you guys love it? Did you hate it? Or did you think it was just okay? I certainly do hope Tomb Raider gets a sequel because it can help it a lot. Because it did all the character development in this film, it can now focus on the bigger and better storylines for the future. But after all that, this has been Entertainment Forever, and I will catch you all at the movies.